What is up, App Nation? It is Steve P. Young, founder of AppMasters.com, the place you go when you want action-packed content related to helping you grow your app downloads. And more importantly, and the topic of today's video is your monetization. We've got an expert, and I've seen her at Revenue Cat, and I've followed some of the blogs she's written on Revenue Cat along with her Substack, and super excited to bring her on. So without further ado, let's bring in Daphne Teichman. Daphne, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, I want to give you a proper intro. She's a growth consultant, author, and former head of growth at Heights, where she helped 10x their subscriber base in just under 18 months. And Daphne reveals what's really driving some of the app growth. And Daphne, I love talking about monetization because I think out of this, it's one of these videos where literally after watching this video, you will almost instantly see results. Whereas, you give tips on other strategies and just sometimes it takes a little bit to go.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think also people get so caught up on the acquisition side. And I know that's important and you're a great person to go to for those tips as well. But I think that a lot of people leave the monetization part on the table. So whenever I'm doing growth audits of apps, one of the most important things that come out of it is opportunities around monetization. So I think it's an overlooked area, and it's also an exciting area this year. Lots has been happening.
Absolutely. And I am in a Halloween costume. So I would love for you guys to guess who you think I am right now. I want to say hi to John. Kevin is here. Happy Halloween, Kevin. I got your email. Happy Halloween back to you, my friend. Joe is here, and Miguel, happy Halloween as well. All right, Daphne, let's get into the slides. I'm going to load this up a little bit. I love me some slides. So I'm going to let you take it away and I'll jump in.
Yeah, perfect. So we already gave a bit away. We're going to be talking about monetization and specifically about 5 trends you can't ignore. And I think this is a good place to kind of start. And I'd be curious also to hear what the audience has to say and what your opinion in this is. It's if you had to ship one monetization test tomorrow, what would it be?
I got one.
Okay. You want to go first?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that we are testing is, I don't know how much I want to give away because Apple is starting to, really pay attention, but I would probably test a hard paywall. And that's one of the first things I would be testing. We have seen a lot of people from our podcast, Daphne, really talk about, especially when they're running UA, how hard paywall really signals faster to Meta. And so there's a little hint for you about what I'll be testing on our end.
Nice. Anyone from the audience have any ones? Or should
Let's see. They are on a bit of a delay, so we'll have to give them some time.
We'll go in the meantime. So I think if I had to ship it tomorrow, I think I would also go and focus on the paywall, but I would really look at paywall position. So seeing when is the paywall coming in the onboarding, because I think a lot of people either put it way too late. And if you look at install to paywall view rate, it's way too low, or they put it too early when they haven't actually brought across the value of it. And so I've seen really great results with just actually seeing really consciously where to place it and what to show in front of it to get people to the point that they're actually then willing to pay. So that would be my quick one that I could ship tomorrow quite easily.
Love it.
I'd say feel free to share if there's any other ones that you guys think, and then we'll dive into the trends. So I just want to give credit where credit is due. This is inspired by an article. Steve read this article and was like, we have to talk more about this because there's so much in this to unpack. And it was an article that covered the 5 trends. And as part of the research for it, I didn't just want to cover which trends I thought was interesting, but I basically went and messaged 11 different experts in the space and asked them all separately, what did they see happening already and what were they expecting, in the hope to also not bias them at all in terms of it. I know it's officially a small sample size if we talk about A/B testing, but given some of the names on there, I do feel we got a huge amount of insights out of that. And I put that all together to really see which ones were the most common ones and which ones were the ones that across the experts people really felt would make a biggest difference. So that's what really inspired these trends. And so I just want to give credit where credit's due, even if I'm presenting them, they're definitely based on a lot of also their opinions as well.
Well, Daphne, we got Miguel said his first test would be paywall with the short trial, maybe?
Oh,
What are your
cool.
thoughts on that?
So it's such an annoying thing of it depends on like what are you testing it against.
True.
So I would be wondering like what are you doing before that? What are you seeing happening? Like if you're doing a hard paywall and you're seeing that there's like a low conversion rate. I know you're a fan of a hard paywall, sorry. But if you are seeing like, you've got a hard paywall and you aren't getting a good conversion rate, adding in a trial could be a way to kind of help with that. Then it could be an interesting one for sure. I think when it comes to trials, I often only see that they end up being successful if there's actually really thought in everything around it to support it and not just the communications of the trial and the paywall. I do think you need to then be really conscious of like, what are you going to be doing in that trial to get them to the point of actually using your app for it to actually have value, because otherwise it won't solve a problem if you have an activation issue.
Yeah, that's perfect. If you guys want to follow more along this, whoops, let me add the right one. Let me do this real quick. I wanted to plug Daphne's Substack. It is growthwaves.substack.com, and all of her info is linked up in your favorite podcast app or your YouTube video as well. All right, Daphne, back to you.
Cool. So if we look at monetization in 2025, and also I think what we can expect for the beginning of 2026, I think 2024 was a bit more of a survival year. There was a lot going on economy-wise, and things were a lot tougher for a lot of startups, especially. But I feel like 2025 is really about sophistication. So we're seeing pricing, packaging, payment flows, like lots being reinvented and people getting a lot more creative. And so I really do believe this, that the winners won't set and forget. They're going to constantly be testing and adapting and evolving. And I think, like I said, like monetization, it often gets thought about in the beginning, and then you kind of move on to other areas and get very focused on the acquisition side and maybe a bit activation. But it shouldn't be something you set and forget. You are going to be revisiting it over time. And with each stage, it becomes more and more interesting to see what you optimize and how you optimize it. So the first trend, which was mentioned by a few people, was premium pricing is the new norm. So I think we've always seen with apps that it has felt like there's a little bit of a ceiling as to what you can charge because of people's expectation of what you pay for an app. And what we're seeing now is that that middle ground is kind of disappearing a bit more, and like apps are either going high end or cheap. So if you're going cheap, it's because you've got a massive audience, you've got a really big reach, really big use case, and you're going for affordability over everything else. Versus with the premium side, it's really more like you are the best of the best for something. You've got maybe a smaller niche, and so you're really optimizing for value there. And we're also seeing, also based on the State of Subscription App report, that annual plans have actually creeped up by 5% in terms of what they're charging on the higher end. So kind of like the middle ground is still a bit similar, but it's more like the higher end is rising. And so users are willing to pay more when there's value and brand strength. I also think it's worth noting the fact that we've got more web funnels is playing a role in this too, because people are used to paying a bit more on the web versus in app. And a great example of this is Tony Robbins. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. This was an example from Leia that they charged $99 per month for the app. Yeah. And it's just basically an AI version of Tony Robbins that you can chat with and will coach you.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
You get your own
I didn't even know he
Tony
had an AI app. There's a Tony Robbins AI app.
So yeah, I think with this, when it comes to testing more premium pricing, I will always give the caveat because some people are like, just increase the price and it'll go. Well, I think there's high price, high expectations. So the higher your price, the more people expect from your app. So I saw this with Peloton, who recently increased the price for me from £39 to £45. And I already felt it was quite expensive at the time, but was like, it's useful. I've got a bike at home. It's worth it. But then I really started re-questioning, do I consider this as worth it for me? I do think like if you're delivering that value up front, you can definitely do it and really focus first on that and the strong retention. And then from there, you really need to be strong in communicating about it, how you communicate that value, optimizing your onboarding and paywalls first, and not just looking at basically what is the conversion rate, because the conversion rate will go down a bit more, how many people are converting to paid. But you really want to look at like what is then the revenue you're actually gaining with it, what percentage are going on maybe that higher plan, and also what is the refund rate, because that might creep up slightly too. So yeah, what about you? Have you tested this before, seen apps, and what did they do
Yeah.
to implement this successfully?
Yeah, definitely. I had a friend of mine, he at the time was running Miracle Morning, and they tested a higher pricing. I think they were charging the calm pricing with $60 a year. And because of the brand equity, it was based off a book from Elrod, where he was talking about the Miracle Morning. And they took that book and the philosophies in the book and took it into an app. And by increasing the price slowly, yes, there were lower conversion rates, like less people buying, but still not low enough where you ended up making more money anyways. But where have you seen this kind of work better versus like not at all? Because I have tested with other clients where we've tried increasing the price and it just didn't move. And maybe it was too low, Daphne, because we went from like 20 to 30. Do you suggest going from like 20 to, like 2xing it when you're trying to go premium pricing?
So I would be really conscious if you are charging an app of doing that, because basically there's the regulations around like how much of a price increase you can do without having to like basically re-opt everyone in. I think it's about 50%, if I'm not mistaken. So I would be conscious with that of going too much too soon. I am actually more in the front of doing it step by step. Where I've seen it being done really well is when you've added certain really high value added features prior to the price increase, because then you can really justify that difference of like, why have you increased the price and what's the value. So with the Peloton example, when they first increased their prices, they did this incredible table where they showed how many more workouts have they added, how many more languages, how many more options have they added. And so it was really clear to the user what I started paying for and what I'm paying for now is completely different. And there's been recent things I remember that add a lot of value. But if we then compare it to the current price increase, yes, they did highlight, hey, we've got more workouts, but at a certain point, 10,000 versus 20,000 workouts, it doesn't have the same value for a user. And where they were then pointing out, we've added the breathwork app, I was like, what breathwork app? I've never seen the breathwork app. First, I wasn't even sure, oh, is this a separate app? Is this in the app? Like they had, and maybe they did it and I just missed it. But given that I was using it like 3-4 times a week at the time, I found it really strange that none of the instructors in the latest videos, because I often watch the newest, did the newest workouts, not just watched. I promise I did the workouts too. And also like would often like, be in the app choosing a workout. There was no pop-up, nothing as far as I could see where it was like, hey, we've got this new feature. So for me, it felt like it was more of a shock than anything, because I was like, I didn't know that I was going to be getting this. And retrospectively, I tested that app and I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. But if I'd known that beforehand and tested and was using the app, I wouldn't have minded the price increase as much, because I would have been like, oh, now I've got 2 really cool apps for this, slightly more than what I would have paid for the old one. So I see this being successfully done when a lot of features or added value has been added in, and when retention is really strong. It's not a stick on bad retention. I think that's why Disney and Netflix gets away with their price increase. They're adding new content, but they know their retention numbers are good.
Right. Yeah, I'm a heavy Peloton user, but I use the app. And so, yeah, like I've got the app on my phone, everything. Even my dog walks, Stephanie, are tracked. I'm just like, I want
Oh
credit.
wow, that's real dedication. I'm not
Yeah.
that far yet.
I just want the credit.
That's fair. That's fair. So should we move on to trend 2?
Yeah, let's do it.
So pricing and packaging is getting smarter. So I hinted at this before a little bit, but I think flexibility really wins. And if we talk about those higher prices, I think these two can be quite nicely combined, where rather than having a one size fits all, having more dynamic tiers and like regional prices, discounts, even pause options for people who are doing payments through the web is becoming more popular. Just making sure that people actually feel like they're in control and they have a choice. Again, back to that Peloton example, there was no option in that email where it was like, well, if you don't want that, don't worry, you can still have this price or you can switch to this plan. It was really kind of like, this is what's happening. Doesn't matter that you're a subscriber. It doesn't matter like that you've been with us for a while. You get the new price just like everyone else. And I think a great example of this is also ClassPass, where they basically have gone from only doing fitness, but to actually bundling different things in there and having this one offering for all, where you can use these credits for all these different things to actually add more value for different groups. And I think it was Alice who contributed to the article, and we also did a live session about this at Revenue App Growth Annual, was the one to also mention that for example, in Berlin, where she lives, where co-working is really more popular, that's really like more present for that audience because they know that's something that they value. So it's really about seeing like, well, how can you adjust things according to who your customer is? And also keeping in mind, of course, rules around like discrimination. I'm not saying discriminate in any way, but you can use context. So we can use country or region. There's also an interesting example of even like using device and battery life. If they see your battery's almost dead, hit them with like an offer they can't refuse. Number of sessions they've been on there, persona based on the audience. And for this, I've got an example from Headspace where I've indicated sleep is important to me. That whole paywall is optimized on sleep.
Yeah. I've definitely seen this work pretty well.
Yeah.
We had this was like years ago, like 2020, 2019, where based off of what you answered on the onboarding, the paywall would personalize it to whatever you answered.
Yeah. I think a lot of apps don't do this well enough as a factor as a whole. I don't think this just improves like in terms of like using that to adjust the offering, but also, for example, a lot of apps have quite long onboarding, but they're not feeding back what they're doing to take that information.
Right.
So when you then get what they say is a personalized recommendation, it can feel a bit flat because you don't get the context. And I think personalization can work so much better when you are taking this context, but you're explaining also a little bit along the way of like, hey, we've learned this about you, so we believe that this is what's right for you. Do you agree or not agree? Because then it doesn't feel like, oh, okay, yeah, you realized I work out a lot. I told you that, obvious. It's more like, okay, based on what you've said, if we take a fitness app again of like, because I work with mainly wellness apps, so a lot of my examples are going to be wellness based, but I'll try to use other ones where possible. If I told you I work out often, I have been training for a few years, you can say like, well, based on what you've been saying, you really take your fitness seriously. You want something that's really going to challenge you and something that's going to help you really get to that next level. Is that correct? Like, it's still quite generic, but it already feels a lot better than you work out a lot. Yeah, I told you I work out a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like the sales, right? Sales 101. You let the customer talk and then you just give them back. You just sort of reiterate what they just said there too.
Why don't we do it in apps then?
I know, Daphne. Well, I was going to say the category that I feel like does it the best are probably fitness and wellness apps. Like that they take that information and give you a plan and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And they're also the ones, again, on the website who are leading a bit that front, and probably because of that have always had slightly more flexibility in testing a lot more and adjusting. But I think even with them, like I've been testing a few like bigger ones, and I just feel like that information isn't feeding back in any way. Are there any other contexts that you feel like we've missed here that are relevant?
No, I think that was perfect. The Daphne,
Sunglasses. I love Daphne.
I know. I forgot the AV. I love Daphne's LinkedIn post. And then Alicio, they finally guessed it. Ted. It is Ted Lasso, and I did forget my aviator. Hopefully, my wife come home. I can just ask her to bring it up. It's in the garage. But anyways,
sorry guys, I was going to come as Keely, but it's ironically very hard to get the outfit here in the UK and actually get the shirt for it. It's easier to get like the Ted Lasso, but to get like a shirt of the team, it was strangely hard. I had some vintage fights that I didn't win. So you just get a little spider instead.
I love it. Daphne, one of the next trend is one that we're actually testing out too, and one that I really, really love. So let's get to that one. Next trend.
Yeah. So hybrid monetization.
Yes.
This has really been taking off. And with hybrid monetization, we're not just talking about, doing subs and one-off payments. There's a whole kind of mix of things that are going on. I think the classic one that has been run for a lot longer is kind of this subs and ads combination. But we're also even seeing physical products. For example, I think there's reading.com even has like physical books for like the kids as well that they can follow along with, that they're selling via Amazon or we're planning to sell through there. Usage base is also on the rise due to AI and this cost per actually using of it. And so if we look here again at the state of subscription app report, we can see that there's quite a big combination that actually has some kind of either, a different type of payment options, so consumables or doing subscription consumable lifetime. And that percentage of subscription only is still the highest, but it's slowly growing. And I'm really curious to see what the report So I'm a data nerd. I like comparing the reports and seeing like how it's changed each year if they haven't done the yearly comparison in it. So I
Yeah.
have this copy saved, and I'm so excited next year to compare it then and see like, has this grown? For which category is it growing? Because the prediction is that it is going to be growing. And the nice thing about this is that it unlocks basically new revenue opportunities. I think especially for freemium apps, it's very interesting to kind of capture users, because not everyone wants to commit to a full subscription. So having these
Mhm.
options can help you better monetize the people who are never going to subscribe.
Yeah.
And
Daphne,
here are
we
just
can go
kind of
back
those
real
two
quick.
examples. Yeah, of course.
Would you mind? Now this is me, Steve, talking. What I would say is, Apple, please stop rejecting our lifetime offers. You know, what I've seen sometimes from developers is when they will add a lifetime offer, and Apple is starting to reject that because it's a change of business model. Like, you can see this growing. This is a trend, Apple. Please stop rejecting some of the developers who want a lifetime offer, because one of our clients, he does a lifetime offer and they're big, but it works, Daphne. It works. Like, we'll do
I
like
mean,
Halloween
Calm runs
promos.
lifetime offers, and they're
I
one of
know.
the biggest, apps in the wellness space. Like,
Yeah. It's just,
um,
I feel like we're all moving, because I bought the lifetime offer on Calm and I
oh, I
did
did
it through
too.
the web. Yeah, but I did it through the web. And I'm
Me
just
too.
like, Apple, you're just forcing us to just go elsewhere to
Yeah.
figure out things, if you're gonna start being have a tight hold on things that we can do in the App Store.
Yeah, and it also
Yeah.
causes a lot of hassle either for the user or the app
Yeah.
itself, because either you have to let the user know, please cancel your subscription. It's not going to auto cancel, because lifetime, even though we call it lifetime subscription, it's not actually a subscription
It's
in any
not.
way. So it doesn't override your existing subscription in app. And also, if you're then doing it on the web, it's separate from it. So either the app needs to make sure your subscription's been canceled, which I can imagine at the volumes of Calm is an absolute nightmare. Unless maybe there's a way to automate it. I'm not a developer. I'm not the most technical on those kind of things. So maybe there is a way, but it just feels like an extra loop, like an extra step also for smaller apps of like having to work that out and having to go through that hassle when they already have a million things on their plate.
Yeah, 100%.
But agree, Apple, if you're listening, please, it's not nice. You get money still from the lifetime subscription too, right? They get the same fee,
They
don't
do.
they?
They're listening.
Greedy. Sorry. Yeah, I think one thing, so these are kind of the main options. And I have seen also apps do, for example, I saw like subs, ads, and then also like virtual currency. And and then with the subs, they had like 3 or 4 different like packages. So weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual. And then I'm like, it's too complicated. Let's simplify it down. So I would just say like every single extra thing creates complexity, and just be really conscious that if you are going to do multiple, how do you explain it? And how do you make sure that it doesn't feel like too much? Um, which one do you feel like is, because you mentioned lifetime, but are
Apple.
there any other ones that you're seeing more and more often?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've seen a lot of these subs in like the credits and packs, and we've seen that work pretty well too. We move for one of our apps, we started adding the ads, the subs and ads, just to kind of see what else would happen. And I've got like other things that I'm testing here as well. But I think like physical, like one of the clients we work with, the physical aspect was just sending people to Amazon. And if there is a physical component to an app, and putting an affiliate link, and she was the client that I'm looking at, was we sent an email campaign, be like, here's our top, whatever
Yeah.
products, and it was just an affiliate link. And so physical is just easy. And one of my clients, he added it to his app, just like, hey, if you want to buy the physical products, go check it out on Amazon and you get credit
Yeah.
for whatever they buy.
Yeah, exactly. I think like you don't have to have necessarily a whole e-com store. I
Yeah.
think just even like having recommendations and things like that. And I think physical really makes sense when something can add to that experience of having the physical. Like again, fitness comes immediately to mind because you want to have the workout equipment around it. And I think ladder during like COVID, when there was such a lack of it, like shared that they like bought a load of, I think it was kettlebells, loads of kettlebells, and just sold those, and that helps them actually use it. But I think like there's definitely other use cases like having those physical reading books if you're a reading app, and I think it just can also build that additional kind of loyalty to it. Because I think when because I do a bit of work also with ecom brands, whenever we're looking at like how do we get that stickiness and that habit formation, we're looking at like what can you put in your house that will remind you of this. And I do think with apps, like yes, you've got the idea of adding a widget to your phone. Yes, you are on your phone a lot, but we all have so many apps these days. It's so easy to forget what you've got on there, what you want to use. And so having something physical that goes with it, that kind of is in their space and reminds them of you, is a really cool one.
Yeah, I love it.
But
I
it
think
does
the
have the
biggest brands
logistics element.
I think the biggest brands do that. Like you think about, Peloton and having a physical product along with a subscription, right? Like it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense. Think about Apple, right? Like, and so, yeah, I really like that. I want to address Adam's question real bit quick. Daphne. So App Store reviews rejecting the lifetime in-app purchases because if you submit a new in-app purchase and it has to be a non-consumable in-app purchase, Apple's starting to reject it and say, no, we're not going to let you do that because you're changing your business model from subscription based to lifetime. So that's the rejection that we're getting, Adam, just to be. All right, Daphne. And I like the next one. This one's a little tricky. So I would love to hear like where you've seen the next one work a bit more than not, or if you've seen certain apps do the next one a lot better. And that next one is
Apps web checkout. So divide and conquer. So I think most people will have heard about the like shifts that you can basically have the web payments in app. And that, yeah, it's still only US. My prediction around this is that it is going to eventually spread broader. But obviously, with anything that has legal changes, it does take time. And we're also seeing, of course, on the website of things like Webflows giving more like tracking and having lower fees and offering more control. But they're not a silver bullet by any means. I think trust and UX really matters in this. We're definitely seeing a huge rise on like the side of like more and more web funnels being tested. It's becoming easier and easier to test that. And we're seeing more and more apps also test these in-app links. So you can see also with Spotify here, how they basically have a link then to the web with there. So it is a really interesting one. But basically with tests, like what it kind of shows is that it doesn't win naturally in all of them. So even though with like web you are having lower fees, it can also feel a bit like untrustworthy to leave it. And it also does add like an extra step to it all versus the usual way that people are used to it. So I think especially with younger audiences, it can be a bit of an issue. So that's why I say it's not a silver bullet. Like it also testing web properly does take time. I usually recommend at least 3 to 6 months on it. And you need to really build that user trust around it and make sure that there's minimum friction and also consider the like operational overhead. So if you haven't been running web before that and you've just started doing this because of this option of having these web payments, you need to be conscious that before that, the App Store was taking care of everything in terms of like taxes and compliance. You need to even make sure that you're using a merchant of record like Paddle or finding a different solution for it. So, and then I think it can backfire, especially with like younger audiences who are used to kind of that native in-app experience. I think older audiences are a bit more used to paying on the web. They're not as fussed about it. So if you want to be testing this, I would say rather than test it with everyone, maybe testing it instead with kind of like who you identify as high intent, and then offering it through that in like post onboarding or promo screens, versus with the low intent, try to keep them in the app first to warm them up and build that trust because you might not have that trust yet to get them there. I don't know if you have any tips on how you can approach this with this younger audience, because I am conscious that obviously they are one of the biggest groups, the Gen Z and the millennial kind of group in app. If we can consider millennials still the younger one, they're kind of in between.
yeah.
I'm a millennial. I'm allowed to say that.
Another thing that we've seen is just like chargebacks and people like disputing the charges on there. And a friend of mine, Ethan, who was a past guest of mine, he's building some technology. So a little teaser there, and I won't give away any of it, but we kind of showed it off at the Revenue Cat event. Anyways, so that's another thing to think about. Daphne, I almost feel like just to keep things simple, like if you're gonna do, I'd rather just do web to web and then app to app. Like, like almost keep it simple, not try to complicate it yet, unless you're one of the bigger players like Spotify, Netflix, it kind of makes sense for you. And Spotify has always done this, Audible in a way.
Yeah.
But for the most majority of developers out there, like, hey, app to app and web to web, like, let's just keep it simple.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's a good point about like with those bigger ones. I think the difference with them also is like you listen to Spotify on your laptop. You watch Netflix on your laptop
Yeah,
too, or on your
exactly.
TV. Like it isn't something that you're just using on your phone by any means. So to then do the web payments or be pushed to do the web payments, it doesn't feel as strange. I think the only case where I have had kind of like as a personal experience a hiccup with is like Kindle, where they won't let you buy the books from your phone directly because they don't want to pay that fee. And then you're kind of like searching for books and you're kind of like seeing like, how do I buy this? Can I buy this? And then it's really annoying.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, oh, leave it. I'm not going to buy it now. And then, sometimes you end up like losing interest in it. So I do feel like in some cases it can actually almost like add that friction of it. But yeah, I definitely think like those bigger ones and like what you said with like, I think I would also agree with like first maybe test the web to web side of it. And if that's really working well for you, you've built kind of like a trust, a good setup, you'll have also way bigger like audiences to test with than just doing a part of your audience um, going app to web. And then you could always see like later, okay, based on that, maybe if, for example, in our email flows, we want to send them to that instead, because that feels maybe more natural than sending them from the app there.
Yeah, I like it. Henry says with the physical product stuff, so rewind. When I worked at Calm, they added a lavender sleep spray for your pillow. I kind of like that idea. I'm like, I gotta get
Yeah,
me
you
one of
did
those.
that. We're
Yeah,
lifetime subscribers and we've missed out on a lavender sleep
I
spray.
know. I know. Get
Oh,
out of here. Okay.
need,
So we
need
got
to
the
make it
last one. I'm sorry.
I said they need to make it maybe clearer. But no, we can move on to the last trend.
Well, we probably stopped using it. I moved on to
Yeah.
the Peloton meditations and stuff.
Oh gosh. That's why I like working with wellness is because I have probably tested every single thing.
Yeah.
Um, so the last one I have to give credit to Nathan Hudson for because this was one that he mentioned. But I do think it is a really interesting one because it kind of like highlights again like this web trend. And I really struggled with putting the web trends in here because I was like, it could be free trends, it could even be for like, and I was like, how do I split this up in the right way? But I felt like this was worth kind of separating out because I feel like when it comes to apps, it's kind of been always this idea of like, we do either hard paywall or we have a more freemium experience. We do a trial, we don't do a trial. But because of like the App Store regulations, we haven't really like been as creative as we could compared to if you look at like ecom. And that's why I like having the ecom side of like things as well, because a lot of the things that they are testing there is inspiration for what we can now do with the website of it. And so money back is basically instead of offering a free trial, which in general do work worse on the web because of also what got mentioned of like chargebacks or people using cards with no money on them. Is instead of having a free trial, it's like, no, let's just offer a money back guarantee and focus on that because that also means we get the immediate purchase, which is also great for the paid side of things. You already said hard paywall, better signal, same concept here, but just using this to kind of soften the blow of it. And so it's really interesting because with ExpressVPN, I used them a while ago and then they kind of had this free trial and I used that. And then I revisited them and they now really focus on the guarantee. And they basically have like all these like little extra things below it of like, is it 1 month or 30 days? Why does it be a free trial? Like, and they basically explain like, look, with the free trial, you can do that, but you're going to get limited features versus with the guarantee,
Mm.
no, you'll get your full refund, no hassle, no stress. And you kind of like, you do have to have that trust with them and make it really clear what your policy is about it. But I think it's a really interesting one to kind of like up that because then you're not losing people as much in the trial period. And if you're working with a money back guarantee, you're really like, okay, I can't just cancel and then not worry about it. I need to actually use this and try this properly. So I think that's like a really interesting one to consider. And the ones where I would say it's worth testing for would be ones that are more premium products and you've got a strong onboarding before that to build the trust. And you've got a good attribution set up. I think that's also important with it. So those are the ones that I would say like, hey, this is an interesting one to test. I don't know if you've ever tested this out or not.
I have, and I kind of said this in 2022. Sorry.
Oh,
So this is my example.
Steve
This
was
is
before his time.
sorry, Nathan. Come on. The
Just stealing my 2022 ideas.
so I said Aptive, like this was something that I've always seen on the web because I come from the web stuff. Like Aptive, I saw you see this 30-day money back guarantee, and I was like,
Nice.
why aren't we saying this to on the app? Because Apple takes care of everything. Like if you want a refund, Apple will likely give you a refund.
Yeah.
And so I thought we could start leveraging that verbiage back when I saw this example through Aptive, and then they had a win back offer right here too. But yeah, I love the money back guarantee. It works.
So you guys tested that now on the app side and saw like a boost on it?
I don't know if we absolutely did like a true A/B test, Daphne, but this was one where I was just like, hey, this is an interesting. I know it works on the web, and so I
Yeah.
don't see why it wouldn't work on the app side of things.
Yeah, it's a fair shout too of like, okay, why we shy away from it on the app side.
Yeah.
Because like you say, it's maybe not as simple on the website, but it is like very easy especially if the refunds, are going directly through the app store. So it is possible to test. I can imagine if it's getting too high a rate, it's not ideal. But if it like in my experience, the amount of people who actually do this and claim a money back guarantee,
It's very small.
it's really small if you have a good experience and you're managing expectation up front.
Yep.
I've seen it really high when there's been like sneaky upsells, and which is more on the website. It was a web funnel where we had that where when I joined, I was like, I think we are being a little bit too cheeky with the whole one-click upsell. It's not obvious enough what they're getting. Or when it's like not clear up front what to expect from the app, then it increases. But then I'm like, actually the only thing that, it probably was already quite high to begin with. So you could have probably known that this wouldn't be the right move right now. You need to focus on getting that refund rate lower by improving the experience and expectations.
Yeah. I mean, these guys were doing both Aptive. They had the 7-day trial and a 30-day money back guarantee. So
They were doubling up. I mean, that's also an option. Test both.
it's on the app,
yeah.
right? Like it's fair enough, right? So
Yeah.
it's just we do our normal trial and then we just add
Yeah.
that as marketing.
Kind of like an extra
Marketing.
reassurance. I think what's nice about the combination then is because you see with trials, like a lot of people are just canceling because they want to test it first and they're scared of forgetting it. But then when you're like, oh, I've got my 30-day guarantee, there isn't that like, I'm going to cancel this on day 1 or day 0 basically, and like immediately cancel it. And just in case, you're more likely to be like, you know what, I'm going to try it properly because I've got the 30-day guarantee, even if I forget. It kind of adds that like padding that you're not as worried about it, I can imagine.
We should test this. Okay. We will get a proper test going for you, Daphne.
Yes. I told you I love data. I want to see the results of that. I know it doesn't say everything, but I'm always curious. So I think, yeah, the way I kind of explain it is monetization is getting smarter and spicier for sure. I think apps are willing to charge more and owning it, and rightfully so. Why? Because it's on your mobile. Should we, kind of settle to this initial pricing that people kind of expected with apps? I think static pricing is slowly dying. I think more and more dynamic pricing within regulations is going to grow, and that subscription only is becoming for a lot of apps outdated. Again, there's always the depend. And I think that web flows are also just unlocking new tactics and approaches. And I think that's really exciting to see. So yeah, those are the 5 trends that we basically, have been seeing. And I think it makes for really interesting potential tests. And I'm also hoping that everyone watching has also, as we've gone through this, had a moment where they're like, oh, this is something we could test. Because they won't apply to all apps, but there definitely is at least 1 or 2 things in there for everyone.
I love it. I love it, Daphne. Is that you have a favorite one of yours of the 5 trends?
I have to choose a favorite. I think I like the contextual testing. I think that's really, really interesting. Because I think it just meets people more where they are at. And I've always felt like that, we don't do that enough, that we approach things sometimes too statically. So I think that would be my favorite, of actually using the context more to adjust what you're doing and not just like the basics of like country, but getting a bit more like creative around there. What about you?
I think this is one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
I mean, the hybrid in this, because I think we are sleeping on this. I have a future guest that's coming on in about a month, but he's been able to find some extreme success in his home country of Thailand and running ads there. And I'm like, what? Like, people I think sleep on, they just tend to focus on tier one countries. And I'm like, look, the world is huge. People are willing to pay as long as you're offering something good. And so I do like this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like with the like kind of country region side of it, a lot of people also just accept the standard pricing.
Yeah.
But the standard pricing of like Apple and Google, they aren't actually accurate according to like what people spend in that category, what people expect, what competitors within that category are charging. And so I think Flow also had like a huge lift in Brazil by just being a bit more conscious of like what pricing actually matches them better versus the standard recommendations, and also which of their packages they put forward. So shorter durations. I think that's also a very interesting one of like matching the durations to it. I have an app I'm working with right now where I'm trying to work out if this would count as discrimination or not. Maybe you have an idea. Where like we see that there's a very young audience of like 16 to 20, and then there's like the 20 to 26 group. 20 to 26 group more likely to go for annuals, more likely to go for monthlies. The younger group are really going to tend to just want the weekly because they don't have that kind of same spending power. They're a bit more skeptical and like less keen on subscriptions in general. That's maybe a generalization, but that is a slightly higher trend around that age group. And so I'm wondering, like, can we know their age from the onboarding, could we adjust which packages we're showing them? So we're not charging different prices, but we're kind of highlighting different packages. I'm not sure if that would actually count as discrimination. But
no, I like it. No, it's personalized pricing. I think, the people on the web have been doing this for years. So yeah. I don't think so at all.
Yeah. I think as long as you're not charging a different annual price, it wouldn't count as kind of like the discrimination. So that's also like a different example of something that we've been thinking about that you can also maybe, if it's allowed, like this is not legal advice, please double check this first before you. Yes. I'm always so careful with these things. I'm like, I'm not legally advising you in any way.
Yes. My wife's a lawyer, and so I'm used to saying all this stuff. I'm like, hey, my wife's a lawyer. I say this stuff.
I know I have to put this in here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Daphne, for sharing all this stuff. I want to get into some of our app audits, and we'd like to start off every app audit, if I can find it, with some dad jokes. All right, Daphne, as the guest, I mean, we can move to a Halloween theme. I'm like, all right. What about
I've got Halloween dad jokes.
Okay, same.
I do. Yes.
Which one? You like this one? You like this background?
Yeah, let's go for the or that one. That one's fun.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
For everyone, before we got live, Steve was just basically putting a pumpkin in front of my face. He's like, look, we've got decoration on here. I'm like, okay, if they just want to see a talking pumpkin, here we go. I was like, I'll just hide behind it again.
There it was. Thank you. Hey, it's good job, bro. I love having a producer. All right. This is perfect.
Right. So
perfect timing.
Are you ready for a bad joke?
Yes, I am. A bad joke. I like it.
Bad dad joke. So what is a ghost's favorite dessert?
What, Daphne?
A blueberry pie.
Blueberry pie. I love it. Okay, Daphne, I've got one. Okay. Thank you, H. This one repeats. You gotta watch out for that one. Okay. Let me handle this. Okay, producer, I'm kicking you out again. All right. Daphne, what should I be? Okay. Two monsters went to a Halloween party. Suddenly, one said to the other, a lady just rolled her eyes at me. What should I do? The other one says, be a gentleman and roll it back to her. There you go. All right. Just put D or S if you thought Daphne's joke was better. Put D and then put S if you thought my joke was better. I actually have to vote.
Well. If I would have led with my best one then.
Okay.
Actually, I think they're all terrible. I actually think the level is pretty low.
We can do another round. It is all good. Round. Yeah, sure. Just for you.
Just for Halloween.
Just for Halloween. We'll make it fun. Okay. And if you want your app featured in a future app audit, just go to appmasters.com/audit, appmasters.com/audit. And if you want to sit down with me for an hour, that's the same link as well. All right. Arvind's app is right here. We got the votes coming in. Whoops, let me remove this and then add this. All right, he's got a macro tracker app called CalorieKit. Wants help on ASO and then onboarding. Okay, anything from the App Store presence?
Yeah, so when
Daphne?
I was looking at the app in the App Store, I think this is less on the ASO side.
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to be the one who's got the great tips on that side. But I was just thinking when I was seeing this, like it's a very competitive category.
Yeah.
And so I really struggled to pull out of this what exactly was kind of the main differentiator or why I would download this specific tracker. So it felt like it was like, okay, I kind of get what I can do with it. I can track. There's like a weight loss kind of program with it. The screenshot said 28 days, and then the text below said like 21 days. So it was also like that's slightly inconsistent, but I don't think most people would notice that. But I'm just wondering, like, what could you kind of like really differentiate in there? Of like, is it like that you've got this great 21 program that helps you achieve XYZ? For example, I've been testing Ladder has just launched this week their nutrition feature, and something I absolutely love about it is just I can voice note in what I've been eating. And I'm so lazy with these things. And I'm like, so for me, that's a huge differentiator. And I'm not saying add that in, but that would be what I would consider differentiates their tracker. So I think like that would be my first thing is like with the competition category, with the fact that it looks like it's harder to rank for this, when you are getting people here, how do you kind of make it a no-brainer to see like the value of it and what it is that you're going to help them achieve that the other brands that apps they might be considering or the other techniques that they're considering, if for example manually tracking it themselves or just trying to be conscious, isn't going to help them achieve.
Yeah, I like it. John says, for the macro tracker, I recommend matching the color background of the App Store icon with the background of the App Store screenshots as well. Yeah, I like that too. I mean, this looks really good. ASO, I think for this category, like I like macro tracker, but that's a competitive keyword. Calorie tracker, super competitive as well. There are other keywords around this tracker app that you might want to try to go after. I think for an app like this, given the competition, you're going to have to find a different source of downloads than just purely ASO. It's going to be extremely hard. And that's what I feel like coming 2026, Daphne. Like ASO is just extremely hard these days, that I'd rather focus my energy on other growth channels.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've also got a point of like looking at where you're going to actually compete on, because like from what I can see here, and I know it's not all the reviews, but like 4.4 on average, it's staying 11 ratings, which makes me feel like there probably isn't a huge amount yet, which is okay. Like this is not shaming in any way the rating or the or like the amount of reviews, but it's more like just looking also with those keywords, like where are you actually going to be at the same level as that? And that like when people then see that and are comparing it, that if it is similar, that it's at least like they don't feel like, hey, this could be the one that's not as big or doesn't have as much to offer. Which I think when you're in those smaller keywords and they might have a bit less volume, you are potentially going to rank higher, but also not look as if you're below what else is in the category versus like some of those main keywords where you've got these like bigger optimized apps who are getting higher ratings. People might notice that a bit more.
Yep, absolutely. Henry says, agree, somehow differentiate your app. So Arvind, let's do that. All right, we got similar feedback. All right, let's get into the app itself, Daphne, and maybe we can give Arvind some. Daphne, wouldn't you know it, you're just dominating in terms of the dad jokes votes.
Yes.
So, I know. It's
They're
traders.
being nice to me as the guest, even though I didn't make the same Halloween. This is a Halloween costume effort. Or do you feel bad that I failed at being Keely next year? I'll be back next year for Halloween.
Okay, welcome to CalorieKit. Any thoughts? This is the first page, Daphne. This is the first time I'm opening the app.
Yeah, so I think here I kind of had that same feeling as I'm still kind of struggling to see like, okay, what is it going to be that's really stands out on this? And I feel like there's a lot of also generic kind of words and repetition of like easiest, accurate is being used twice. I would kind of try to have like the promise here. Like these are very like focused on like what the features would do for you, but what is the outcome that your audience is hoping to achieve? From the onboarding, you're probably going to know like what people are focusing on. Often with these kind of things, like I can imagine it is a bit more around like weight loss. But you can see better than I can like what people are indicating that they're focusing on. So I would try to have that here of like, hey, you probably can't promise like, oh, you're going to lose this weight, but you can focus a bit more on that outcome that they're hoping to achieve. And maybe even just having a bit more like an idea of what you're going to get in there, or making this a bit more fun or interactive of expectations around here, to really get them to like want to sign in, and take that next step, because the sign in is like, yeah, it's quite standard to start with that, but it is a bigger ask.
Yeah, and we've actually seen, we had a fitness app a couple of years ago where we swapped the two. So they had some onboarding, Daphne,
Yeah.
versus just straight sign in right in
Yeah.
the first page. But when we flipped, so we had onboarding and then sign in and then
Yeah.
paywall. When we
Yeah.
flipped the two and did onboarding, paywall, and then sign in, we
Yeah.
actually saw a 52% increase in sales, because to your earlier point about paywall views, our
Yeah.
paywall views were 60%. So we're losing 40% of our users just on the sign up page.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly. And I think like, it's like, is it actually worth it for you at this point? Like, how many people are you losing versus like, especially if you are offering like Apple login, like if a lot of people are using that, you probably can't even be you're probably not even able to contact them further beyond that, because most of the people aren't using the email that they use mainly as their kind of login. This also I felt like could be a really good opportunity, because it started at 90 centimeters. I was like, this is a
drives me
very short
nuts.
person.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. Now we finally find out how tall Steve is.
I'm
Are
not.
you gonna
I'm
tell
not
the
hiding
truth?
it. Yeah, and the truth, yeah, it's 6'7". No,
Yeah, 6'7".
6'7". Yeah, okay. I don't
Height.
know.
Um,
My daughter's probably like cringing right now that I said
yeah.
that.
It's nice because I'm like, "Here, you can reveal this part of it, but I'm not gonna say, the second one for me." Yeah, same with this one. So kind of the standard I see, for health apps is that you've got a box where you can fill in your weight or your height, and there's usually some kind of validation to make sure it's within a reasonable range, and then you
Yeah,
can switch metrics. So you're either choosing your metric, because the other thing you need to keep in mind with that previous screen is that because of the way it's formulated, the second metric, if people are using that, the mental load of trying to find it, like if you aren't familiar with like kilos, like the mental load of then like trying to figure out like, okay, how much is it in pounds and stones and whatnot, is a lot tougher. Yeah, very active with the Peloton.
yeah. We have
Oh, you get to eat so
the
much
the
more than I
treadmill.
do. It's
What
not
do you
fair.
mean?
To be expected.
Oh, yeah, the,
Men always have a higher amount.
yeah. Oh my gosh, there's no paywall, Daphne.
I got a paywall, I
You
think.
did?
I thought I
I didn't see
did. I'm
anything.
trying to rememremember when I tested it. I thought, um,
I can't even figure out a way to.
yeah, maybe I didn't. I feel like because I had like personalized plan, and then yeah, I think what I'd also say at this kind of like with the previous onboarding is you're asking a lot, but you're not necessarily giving. And
Yeah,
so I think it's when you've got an onboarding, you really need to think of that like ebb and flow of like asking, acknowledging what they're saying and giving, and trying to add value along the way of it. Like I think Noom's paywall is insanely long, and I was testing it recently because they have like a landing page style paywall that I wanted to use as an example, and then I messed up and had to redo basically on its quickest a 5-minute onboarding. It was insane. But what they do really well is like as you go through it, is like they kind of like acknowledge what you've said and mention like, hey, X percentage actually see this, and oh, it's really good that you're doing this. So all the things I was already saying I was doing in terms of like, keeping in mind like what I was eating and calories and stuff like that. So I think there's a really a good opportunity with this side of it of like, how do you make them feel like, hey, they're being heard, they're being seen, and you're not just asking them for information, but you're giving back.
yeah. I love it. It's a well
And there
done
was
app.
also a feature I think that's not in the onboarding, but worth mentioning. I love the fact you have like a vote feature for, in the app. I saw that. I don't know
A vote feature?
but it was yeah, it was like if you wanted a feature, I saw on my one, I saw that you could like vote a feature up and it took you to a link. And
Oh,
maybe I was
ooh,
clicking through to something specific, but it was like, here, vote, give feedback. Yeah, it was there, but I saw it on like if you go back, it's the
give
third one
feedback.
other under, but it was also underneath a different feature of like
Mm.
what should we add to this overview. So I do
Oh, that's
really, I
amazing.
have to give credit like that. I really love the focus on also getting like user-based feedback on what you're prioritizing.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good one.
Steve likes
All
it
right.
so much, he's taking a screenshot.
Yeah. There you go. Just for submitting. I'll give you a review.
I'll make sure to review too. I promise.
Oh, he's got a review thing anyways. Great. Okay, Daphne, I already gave you a spoiler. You did win. And I do want to thank our friends at AppsFlyer and arcads.ai. If you're looking for an AI UGC solution, Arcads has some amazing, amazing features, super realistic, and you can get a lot of great hooks through arcads.ai that you can test using AI UGCs. And obviously AppsFlyer, one of the biggest MMPs out there, mobile measurement partner. So if you're starting to run growth and multi-channel campaigns, you're going to need to figure out where these revenues and those downloads are coming from. AppsFlyer is one of the biggest MMPs out there. So thank you to our friends at AppsFlyer and Arcads. And H, we don't need to go through the score, okay? We already know Daphne won. All right, we don't need to know the score, but let's pick a winner for our Indie App Santa promo. And I will share your spinning wheel. Go ahead, H. We only have 5 votes. Guys, come on. I know how many people are here. Literally.
And the winner is
Adam, good.
Adam.
All right. Very well deserving. Very engaged. Thank you, Adam. Just email me, Adam, and then I'll hook you up with an Indie App Santa promo on us. All right, Daphne, you got time for one more? We're going to go straight to Henry's app. I won't spend too much on the App Store presence, but we will just to save time because, you're going to have people coming over yelling trick or treat. So this is called Skillhub.
It's here screaming outside my window. It's the trick-or-treaters. It's a bit later here. I'm in London.
Yeah. So Henry wants feedback on user experience and visuals. So you can learn how to code using AI. Good reviews, good number of ratings too. Pretty cool
Henry,
screenshot.
I have to ask, is it really for the usage of the app that you have to have the latest version of iPhone? Is there no way to use it earlier? Because both Steve and I spent some time updating our phone before this. Because I was quite surprised to see that it was 26 onwards. And yeah, I just can imagine that does have an impact. But yeah, I assume there is a reason behind it, but I was like, oh gosh, I have to do 2 updates. I had to update to a new version of 18 and then update to 26.
I know, my poor this is my iPhone 11. I was like, thank God it still supports it. And I was like, it's definitely slower.
I was like, does to which device is 26 supported?
I mean, I think it's 11. I forget what's the lowest one, but it's definitely slower. I have the 17. That's the latest one, right? I have the 17
I'm kind
here.
of surprised that you're on an 11.
Yeah, no, this is just a test phone. I didn't want, yes.
You've already got the new 17.
Yeah,
I have to give props, by the way. I do feel like the visuals are very strong in the app. Also in the App Store, I did really like them. I think here where Ashley's speaking,
yeah, she is.
If you don't have voice like on, you might just kind of be wondering what's going on here. You're like, oh, I'm missing it, and I've got to grab headphones, and because I was playing it and I was like, oh, I can't actually play it out loud right now. This will be really awkward, and I don't have my headphones with me. And so I think that's one thing I would always consider if you are going to add. I love video. I love video in onboarding. I love video on the paywall too. I think it's a really interesting thing to test. But I would always try to make sure, if possible, there's either subtitles or there's an option to kind of pause or at least let them know hey, you are going to need sound for the next step so that they can prepare. Because I do think otherwise you kind of miss a lot of the context with this.
Yeah, we have seen that even for maybe the wellness apps you're working with, Daphne, adding, let's say it's a meditation app or a soundscape type of app, adding sound to the onboarding, but making it visually known does increase conversions. So I definitely like that idea. And we've seen video work pretty well too.
Yeah, I was testing a sleep app that is a good example of that. Do I still have it on my phone? Loona, Loona. They have sound in their background, and it's kind of very calming, and it adds to the experience. So it's not that you can't use sound, but it's definitely kind of that clarity with it. And then the other thing I was thinking with this, with the flow, was so here you also have the same problem. How do you know which one you want? It's a very visual thing right now, which kind of almost gets an awkward thing of which one of these do I prefer?
I know. That's what I'm thinking right now too. I'm like, I'm picking in front of everybody here. I don't know who to pick.
Gonna find out who Steve's type is.
No, I'm gonna hide it. Let's go. Okay.
Yeah, quickly choose. No, but it was with those two, like it was really like I don't actually know the difference. Is it just it's probably the voice, but if I can't hear them at that point, kind of like even maybe if it is really important that voice, like having that option of just kind of saying like, smooth and like, comforting or like just some like kind of like, hey, what how do they sound? Or like is it
Right.
like different accents? Like I don't know. Um with that.
I would almost prefer this experience before the sign up. I just
Yeah.
think I mean, I don't know what you've seen on your end, Daphne, but we've seen the best we've seen is like 90% conversion rate to that sign up page. And obviously we've seen much lower than that. I just feel like for me, especially in the beginning, I want data. So what
Yeah.
languages are they picking? Are they picking Swift,
Yeah.
HTML, CSS, Python? Which person are they creating? Which instructor? Like I want to know all this stuff. And then obviously we want to get them to the paywall.
Yeah.
And yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and I think it also said on like in the App Store that it was for different levels. But at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, because it took me so long to update it. I was very rushed in
I'm so
the
sorry.
end. My phone was not having it. I had to remove apps to have storage space. I'm on a 14, so definitely not the latest version. But I couldn't see like what level of coding I'm at. And so when you're then saying I'm personalizing it based on you, I'm kind of like, I've only given you 2 data points. I've told you like what language I want to learn and which teacher, but I don't feel like I've actually given you enough to personalize. Because at most you basically have, if it's 5 languages, 5 teachers, 25 variants, that's not personalization, that's segmentation. And so I feel like there could also be a bit more like about like, why do you want to learn? What experience you have with coding. And also I think depending on if you are seeing it's a more junior or an experienced audience, I think for more junior people, they might not even know which language they should start with always. So it could also be if it is really for people who have never coded before and want to get a first certificate, what you'd kind of recommend, like based on like why they're trying to learn it, like which ones are the best for it. I think you've probably gone through this onboarding, I would imagine, with this kind of app, but Mimo does that really well.
No, I haven't. I should check it out.
No,
What do you
yeah,
think
I
about
was
the
saying maybe
trial?
to Henry that he's gone through it.
Oh,
Is
what do
it
you
Henry or H? I can't remember if it was sent in with
it's Henry.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know who's behind it.
I just got the person's name.
Okay.
What do you think about the 3-day trial and then $90 a year?
Oh yeah, so with
$100.
this, so I just something about this just made me feel like it wasn't super clear, if that makes sense. Like kind of the hierarchy of it, of like the free 3 days trial and then 99, or it's this start my free trial. It was kind of like because the 39 was like bigger, I was kind of like thinking like, wait, so what are you going to then charge me after? What can I expect? And obviously you can
Right.
see that when you go to free trials and you could check core plans, but like something about like just the way that was written, it just unnecessarily added confusion, if that makes sense. And I also think like if you're going to get them to do that 3-day challenge, like especially with coding, it's a perfect thing to say like, hey, 3-day trial, and our challenge to you is, do X number of lessons to already be able to learn this by the end of the 3 days.
Yep.
Or like if you spend 5 minutes a day, if you've asked them like how much time they want to spend on it, you're going to be able to do this at the end of the day if you commit for 3 days. Like I think you could really like make it a bit more fun.
Yep. I love it.
Clarify it better. And with such a short trial, like the fact that it isn't very clear on like reminders and stuff like that, I do worry you are going to have a lot of immediate cancels.
I just thought of idea what you just said, Daphne. So like, we've seen Duolingo say, hey, having people commit to a goal actually increases retention and conversion. And I wonder with an app like this, make that goal slidable. So what is your goal? And then you have a chart and you slide it for 5 minutes and then you get this results, 10 minutes, you get this results, and 15 minutes, you get this results. So it kind of inspires me to be like, okay, well, if I just do 15 minutes, I'm going to 2x my learning a bit more.
Yeah, Duolingo, I think, does that with saying like how many words you're going to use. I recently had to retest the onboarding for
Yikes.
an article I was writing about like video paywalls, like using a video on your paywall, and they use an animation. They don't actually use a video. I learned afterwards. But they have like, I think like a number of like words you'll lose and like what you can do. But I think even that is a bit like, in my opinion, kind of focusing on the input rather than the output, because why are you trying to learn the language? You probably want to communicate. Like, so if you do 15 minutes a day, you'll be able to use short sentences in a month. Or if you do 5 minutes a day, you'll be able to do that in, 2-3 months. Like, I think you could make it even more tangible. And it's the same with coding of like, okay, you're going to be able to write, basic HTML to set up a simple web page. I don't know what like the expectations are and the duration, but I think that could be really interesting.
Yeah, that's perfect. And what I would say is one of the paywalls that have worked the best, a couple of things that I wanted to point out was, the video side, this is the recipe flow, and I won't go through the whole thing, but they have a video right here. They ask for the review after they let you import a recipe. Anyways, this type of flow, this 3 screens, we've seen this work pretty well for most of our clients. I wouldn't say all.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one works pretty well. And then what I would also say, Henry, and this is not the Henry that's here, just to let you guys know, but play around with the trials period, because we have seen that sometimes with a high annual, I know it's not that high on the web, but high on the app, leads to really low trial to paid rates. So typically, I think maybe 7, and I've even heard from certain clients 14 doing a bit better. But I would play around with that trial period a bit more.
I think it comes back to those, so that like, what your expectations are of that period with it. Like I did a test of 7 to 14 and we actually just saw like it just spread out and made people slower with it. And I think because we weren't conscious enough of like what we wanted to get them to do in the 14 days versus like actually making sure like, hey, there's a really clear plan of what they want to do. And I also think like with this, you could do really kind of like this sense of progress. So like a checklist of like, hey, well, you've already made your account, you've committed to learning a language. Next step is do your first lesson today and like get, or sign up for the trial, do your first lesson today. And you feel like you're making progress already, even if it's more a false sense of progress. And definitely seeing the same with you where actually, splitting out that paywall into multiple screens. Like I think the lines are blurring between what's paywall and onboarding. And you've got there kind of like with the previous one, that classic, and here also like the Blinkist honest paywall, which, it varies in terms of success, but it does build that trust. But I think it's that main thing of like building that trust in there, and there's different ways to do it. And I think the Blinkist kind of honest approach is a good way, and allows you to say a lot more clearer than just trying to squeeze it on one screen.
Yeah, and one of our past guests took this page and try to improve upon it. And to what you said, Daphne, about like, hey, day 1, here's what you're going to learn. Day 1. So giving them that plan, especially if you've got that 7-day trial, like, hey, give it a 7-day trial. I saw another app do this pretty well. And instead of like, it's the same type of idea here, but hey, we want to offer you 7 days for free, and here's what's going to be involved. So I like that.
Henry's also other Henry.
Other Henry, yes.
The OG Henry has some really good points too.
Yeah, can you share social proof of people getting hired, making amount of money? Yeah, that really works well. Yeah. Completing the course, so forth. Yeah, I love it. Great tips. Henry's a smart dude. I like that. Daphne, anything I missed before we say goodbye? Finally let you go.
I feel like we've covered so much.
I know.
It was good fun to go through it all.
I loved it. And congrats on the win. I'm a little sad. What was your better joke? You want to do your better joke?
I don't know if it's necessarily better. We can see if I flop against myself. Let me see. I think this one is okay. Why didn't the skeleton go to the party?
Why?
He had no body to go with.
Oh,
sorry, maybe I shouldn't have ended with a sad joke.
No, I'll lift it back up. Okay, Daphne. Daphne, I told my wife there's only one thing that scares me during Halloween. She says, which is, and I said, exactly. There you go. Maybe these thinking jokes are not good. Just give me.
Yeah, I feel like yours are a little bit more like smarter ones, so it's appreciated. Get a good thinker.
All right. Well, go check out Daphne's Substack. It is growthwaves.substack.com. And then her LinkedIn profile is also linked up in your favorite podcast app if you're listening just the audio, but I recommend watching the video. And then all the YouTube stuff as well. Daphne, if the audience wants to connect with you in any other way, do you want to send them anywhere else?
I mean, feel free to message me on LinkedIn, and otherwise just hello@daphnetideman.com. You're always welcome to ask any questions. Feel free to reach out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, happy to help in any way I can.
I love it. Why the sound is still horrible? I don't know. Sounds good on my end. But
Is it my
all
sound or Steve's sound?
No, I don't know. So Adam is a winner, and then he got some good results with his past Indie App Santa promo as well. So he's a two-time winner. All right. Thank you, Daphne, for coming on and doing this. Come back anytime. Next week, guys, we got a different type of format for the video. We got one of our clients, Neil. He wants to ask me some questions. So it's going to be a live coaching call. I know we've gotten good feedback when we've done this in the past. So we're going to try it one more time. So join us every Friday. We might go a little bit earlier, just testing that out, but mostly every Friday. And we're going to try an 8 a.m. Pacific for all you guys out in the rest of the world. So I'll wake up a little bit early for you guys, but join us every Friday on YouTube. Daphne, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Everyone enjoyed their Halloween. I hope you guys have some good costumes planned.
Thank you, Henry, for guessing right. All right, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.